I'm briefly gonna talk about El Nino. El Nino is an oscillation in the ocean which occurs periodically. And the reason why I'm doing this is because El Nino is known to have huge impacts when it occurs. And so there will also be the question, does climate change have an impact on El Nino? So before we actually can understand what El Nino is, we have to look what normal non-El Nino conditions are. So what usually happens in the tropical Pacific is that here cold water upwells on the, what is this, West-South American coast, and then the warm surface water flows over to the region of where Australia is in Indonesia. This circulation is driven by the trade winds which occur naturally by the Coriolis force. So how is this system driven? It's driven by that this warm water here, over the warm water is like warm air, and it descends up. So we have here rainfall over Indonesia, Australia. Then the air goes up to here. It sinks down, so we have sinking cold dry air, which causes here arid and cold climate, so in the region of Peru, Ecuador. And then the water flows, like the wind goes over here, the air goes over here, and so this is like a positive feedback. However, this positive feedback can be interrupted by El Nino. This is basically when randomly warm water occurs in this region here, in the tropical Pacific region. So there's a warming of the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. And the sea surface temperature is warmer than usual in this region. And this decreases the pressure over the ocean surface here. And this weakens then the trade winds, which usually would blow the water to the western Pacific. So now the warm surface water, instead of flowing this way, it flows now this way back to the region of West-South American coast, and it suppresses here the normal upwelling of cold water on this region. So this is actually the El Niño condition. An El Niño condition normally follows after an El Niño condition because it's, as I said, it's an oscillating event. So La Nina conditions is basically just the stronger version of normal conditions. So again, the water does upwell here, and the warm surface water flows over here. And this El Nino southern oscillation event is periodically, so it occurs like every 7 years and lasts like for several months. So what are the impacts of El Nino? Usually, as I said, cold water would upwell here the coast of South America. And this cold water is has like a lot of nutrients, and it's a marine, extremely important eco-marine system, and we have like a lot of sea life in here. And local fisheries here, they depend extremely upon these marine systems here. And if now the warm surface water flows back due to the El Nino, it suppresses here this cold water and basically messes up the whole system of fishery. So, for example, when there was this really strong El Nino about 10, 12 years back, these industries had huge problems because they couldn't basically fish anymore because the fish, they died off. And the other impacts are on the global weather, so I'm going to focus now on this card. For example, the rain, which would usually be over like Indonesia, Australia, follows now the warm water, which flows back eastwards. And in regions which are usually dry, it becomes more wet, and regions which are usually wet, they become more dry. So this has, again, a huge impact on these regions here, because if, say, Peru is, like the soil, for example, in Peru, they cannot cope up with like exceeded wet temperatures. So there's now this big question, is El Nino actually related at all to climate change? So if you look here now at the index which shows the El Niños, red, and El Niñas over the past several years, you could assume that, yes, El Niño has become more frequent in the last years. The thing is now that there are like new studies which actually say, no, here will come like new El Niñas and stronger El Niñas events. The thing is, the models which would predict this whole El Niño oscillation event, they don't really know what's actually going to happen in the future. And another question is, since we know that the sea surface temperature is rising, does the atmosphere reaction on warmer sea surface temperatures cause stronger El Niños? The thing is, if El Niños would be related to climate change, if they would react upon climate change, yes, of course, there would be like a global impact on the weather, for example, but the models cannot really say if anything is going to happen. So the general idea that instead of trying to reduce the global warming, we should adapt to climate change is not really going to work in this example, because we have absolutely no idea how El Niño is going to react upon climate change, and a lot of research needs to be done upon this topic.